What is up, YouTube? IDM here, and hopefully I get this one right because this video is taking forever to freaking record because it's so hard to explain. But you guys should save your blobs right now because it's super important, because basically 15.1 beta 1 and beta 2 are still being signed, so you can still save the blobs for that. And the reason why you want the blobs for that is because there is an IOMFB vulnerability that patched in 15.0.2 that could be used for a jailbreak to jailbreak 15.0, 15.0.1, and also 15.1 beta 1 and beta 2. And I forget if it's beta 3 or beta 4. One of those two, Apple did patch it, so those are useless, but the versions that I just mentioned are useful. Are you still following along? Because this video is going to be probably pretty long, a little bit complex, and probably very confusing to understand because it's very confusing to explain, and that's just the way it is. But the problem is everyone knows how to save blobs, at least a lot of people do, but they have no clue what the hell they use blobs for or how to use them. So that makes them useless. So that's why this video should hopefully help you guys out. Now, this is probably like the 7th time I've tried to record this because it's incredibly hard to explain. But if we go over to GeoSnow's website, which has an awesome iOS signing status feature, we can go to iOS signing status and we can take a look at this and go into our iPhone. Just choose your iPhone. I have the iPhone 10, the GSM version, not to be mistaken with the global version, just like so. And then we can check the signing status. And this is basically going to be the same for iPhone 10 and newer for sure. If you're on an iPhone 12 Pro Max, these are going to be, all the same versions that are currently being signed. So Apple is signing 15.0.2, 15.1, and all of that. So basically, since they're being signed, that means that you could use your computer to restore your iPhone to any of those versions that you want. You could use Finder on Mac, or you could use iTunes on Windows, and you could restore your iPhone to any of those right now. Anything in green, I can restore this iPhone 10 to. But the problem is when jailbreaks come out, typically they're on a unsigned version, which is in red, like 14.5.1. So through Finder or iTunes, you can't restore to it, but you can with FutureRestore as long as you have saved blobs for that version while it was signed. So when you save blobs, it's going to save it for every signed version as of when you click sign or click save blobs. So when I click save blobs, it's going to save it for everything in green, even though my iPhone is on 14.7.1, which is not signed. Are you guys following along still? Now, on the Mac, if you're not jailbroken, you can save blobs with Blob Saver. This is an option, and I did do a video on it in the past. Looks like there's a new version out. I should probably update that, but I really don't use Blob Saver too much anymore. I mainly used it for the tutorials. I have a different method on my jailbroken iPhones that I like to use, and I will show you guys how to do that. Just make sure that if you're saving blobs with Blob Saver, you can specify beta versions, as you guys can see, or actually you could just do all signed versions. But you can specify versions and stuff like that with Blob Saver. But that's not the method I like to use, but if you want to, and if you're not jailbroken, that's your only option. But if you are jailbroken, this is the way I like to do it. And I'm going to talk about FutureRestore, some common questions, and more info towards the end of the video. But if you're still here following along, this is the way I like to do it. So if you're jailbroken, you should do this right now. If you're jailbroken with the new untethered Uncover 14.4 to 14.5.1 jailbreak, you should do this. If you're jailbroken on 14.3 to 14.0 with Taurine or Uncover, you should do this. Or if you're like me on any other version of iOS 14, jailbroken with Checkrain, you should do this. So what we're going to do is go into Zebra, and you need to add a repo. You could add this to Cydia or Cilio or Zebra or whatever you're using, and it's the ARX8X repo. It's at the very top of the screen right now. So go ahead and add that repo, and then you can go into the tweaks here and install System Info. Install this package right here. Go ahead and install it on your jailbroken iPhone. And once you're done respringing, what you can do is go into settings, and you're gonna notice if you dig around in settings a little bit, there is a whole lot more information about your iPhone that you can find in settings. And also, there is the ability to save blobs within settings as well. And that's why I like this, because there's no separate app. I can just go into settings and do it. So we're gonna go into general, we're gonna go into about, and now I'm gonna blur my screen so you guys can't see my IP address. Don't worry, I'll take the blur away in just 1 second. So there we go. And in your general settings about, you can see there is an ECID section here on the left, ECID. You can click on it, you can read about it, the electronic chip identifier, so on and so forth. But what's cool about this section is you can swipe it to the left and you can click Save SHSH2, and this is going to save your blobs for any version that Apple is currently signing. So if you do this right this minute, it's going to save blobs for 15.1 RC, Beta 4, Beta 3, Beta 2, Beta 1, 15.1, 15.0.2. It's going to save blobs for all of those. Now I can't save them right now because I've already done it today, but if I go into the shsh.host website, I can go here and I can find all my saved blobs just by typing in the ECID, which is super easy with system info because we can tap and hold the copy, we can swipe back, and we can paste it in here, paste, and it's going to list our AP tickets, and boom, here are the blobs that I have saved with shsh.host on this device. And these are all usable to use with FutureRestore as long as SCP is compatible. Like I said, I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, like I said, this is super important because of the IOMFB that was patched in 15.0.2 and also patched in Beta 3 or Beta 4. Like I said, this could be used for a jailbreak on the said versions that I mentioned, which would be 15.0, 15.0, or 15.0.1, and then 15.1 Beta 1 and Beta 2 for sure. So now that you have saved your blobs, let's say a week goes by and a jailbreak comes out and 15.1 Beta 1 is no longer being signed. So if you go in here and you see 15.1 Beta no longer signed, and you have blobs saved for it. We're going to hop onto my computer a little bit now. So you can use FutureRestore to restore your iPhone to this version. Now, the thing that gets confusing is the SCP. The SCP of your target version firmware has to be compatible with whatever is current SCP, and this is where it gets really confusing. So some people have been asking me, they're like, can I update from 14.3 to 14.5.1 and use FutureRestore to do that to get to the untethered jailbreak? Now, unfortunately, since 14.5.1 is so old now, it's only partially compatible. So with 15.1 SCP, iOS 14 is only partially compatible with FutureRestore. So you can restore your iPhones to any version of iOS 14 with FutureRestore. Yes, it's going to work. But if you have a Face ID device, your Face ID will break and it will not work. So yes, you can update to 14.5.1 with FutureRestore if you have blobs saved for that version, if you don't care about losing Face ID. And the reason is because Apple changes SCP here and there. They made a change, I think, on 14.3 so that certain iPhones couldn't downgrade below 14.3. But I'll just put it this way. Since 15.1 SCP is compatible with all versions of iOS 15, I could, as long as my iPhone is jailbroken, I can downgrade to 15.0.1 if I wanted to right now with no issues, because SCP is compatible for all versions of iOS 15. Like I said, it's only partially supported on 14, and that partially supported means Face ID will break. There's some other weird little things that I don't want to mention, but other things happen too. It's very confusing when it comes to the SCP. But the whole reason why I wanted to make this video is because any of you and all of you that are, on iOS 14, any version, jailbroken on any version of iOS 14, I think that it's important for you to save iOS 15.1 beta blobs right now because that could be used as a jailbreak. And if it is, I will show you guys how to basically use Future Restore to upgrade to it if it isn't being signed anymore. And hopefully we see a checkrain update for my iPhone 10 here, because if checkrain were to get updated for iOS 15, I would feel very comfortable to show a bunch of Future Restore guides on how to jump around all these different versions of iOS. But since checkrain isn't updated for iOS 15, if something wrong were to happen in Future Restore, I would be forced to restore my iPhone 10 to either 15.0.2 or 15.1 or 15.1 beta because they're being signed. I would be forced to restore to a signed version, which means I would lose my jailbreak on my iPhone 10. So a lot of these tutorials are being held back right now by checkrain. Like I said, hopefully it gets updated because it's going to really allow me to show you guys how to get crazy with Future Restore and how to jump around on these versions. Like I said, I have done a full Future Restore video guide, link in the description. Hopefully you guys saved your blobs for iOS 15.1 beta. Like I said, incredibly important right now. And hopefully you found this video useful. Hopefully it helped you understand a little bit how Future Restore and blobs work. If it did, definitely throw me a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot here at the channel. And if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to click that subscribe button. This has been IDM, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.